Wanted for murder or locked up for some of the most brutal crimes imaginable, these Houston crims are some of the most dangerous in the city's history. Today we're looking at the top 10 most dangerous criminals in Houston. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about this video, and leave a comment letting me know what videos you want to see in the future. Number 10. Rogelio Vasquez. Wanted for the murder of his wife 21 years ago, Susie Vasquez was killed on May 16, 1997 in Orange County, Texas. Vasquez was charged with murder, and on July 10, 1977, a state arrest warrant was issued by the 163rd District Court of Orange County, Texas. On June 12, 2006, a federal arrest warrant was issued in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Texas, Beaumont, Texas, after he was charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Vasquez is considered armed and dangerous, with members of the public urged not to approach him. The FBI is also offering a reward of up to $10,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Vasquez. Number 9. Juan Gonzalez. Charged with a murder that occurred during the commission of a home invasion, Gonzalez participated in the planning and execution of the home invasion with at least 5 others. Gonzalez, who is wanted for 2 murders in Houston, is a known member of the Texas Syndicate Gang and has a large religious tattoo on his arm. Gonzalez is alleged to have shot the owner upon his arrival at the front door after he was notified by a home security system. Amazingly, Gonzalez was already out on $75,000 bond when he was charged with the crime, having pled guilty to aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Number 8. The Servant Girl Annihilator. The Servant Girl Annihilator was a notorious serial killer who operated in Austin, Texas during the years of 1884 and 1885. The moniker Servant Girl Annihilator was coined due to the targeting of primarily African American and mixed race servant girls. The killer's modus operandi included breaking into homes and attacking his victims with a variety of weapons. His crimes were particularly gruesome, often involving mutilation of the victims' bodies. One chilling aspect of the Servant Girl Annihilator's crimes was the reported cries and screams heard during the attacks. Witnesses described hearing the terrified screams of the victims as they were attacked, leading to a climate of fear and paranoia within the community. These crimes contributed to the attack and hysteria that gripped Austin during the time of the murders. The identity of the Servant Girl Annihilator remains unknown, and the case remains one of the oldest unsolved serial killings in American history. Number 7. The Torquay Killer. The Torquay Killer is a nickname for Anthony Allen Shaw, an American serial killer who operated in the Houston, Texas area during the 1980s and early 2000s. Shaw earned his nickname due to his use of ligatures, including a Torquay, to attack his victims. Anthony Shaw's crimes spanned from 1986 to 2000, and he primarily targeted young women and girls, sexually assaulting them before murdering them. Shaw's victims included Lori Tremblay, Diana Rebola, Dana Sanchez, and Maria del Carmen Estrada, among others. Shaw's reign of terror came to an end in 2003 when he was arrested and subsequently confessed to his crimes. In 2004, he was convicted of multiple counts of murder and sentenced to death. Shaw's case gained significant attention due to the brutality of his crimes and the length of time it took for him to be brought to justice. In 2018, Shaw's execution was postponed due to concerns over the drugs that were to be used for the lethal injection. He died of natural causes while on death row less than a year later. Number 6. Dean Call. Infamously dubbed the Candy Man due to his ownership of a candy factory, Call terrorized the Houston area during the 1970s. Call's crimes included luring young men with the promise of social parties or gatherings, using the candy factory as a front for the attacks. Call's crimes eventually hit the headlines and shocked across the nation, with his eventual demise down to his accomplice, who we shall cover later, shooting him in self-defense. Call is thought to have had over 28 victims, and had it not been for his accomplice's action, may well have had many more. Number 5. David Brooks. The second accomplice of Candyman killer Dean Call, Brooks also assisted in the killings of Call's victims. Brooks was indicted for 4 murders committed between December 1970 and June 1973, but eventually only stood trial for 1 killing, that of 15-year-old William Ray Lawrence. Brooks claimed that he never actually took part in the events at the factory, however the jury later found him guilty. Sentenced to life imprisonment, Brooks showed no emotion at the sentence after it was handed down. Brooks served his life sentence at the Terrell unit near Roio, Texas. However, he died at Galveston Hospital on May 28, 2020 at the age of 65. Number 4. Elma Wayne Henley. Officially known as the third accomplice to the Candyman Dean Call, Henley often partook in the brutal murders of Call's victims. Over the span of 3 years, from 1970 to 1973, he helped Call abduct over 28 people, leading them to the factory Call owned. On one occasion, Henley brought a girl back to the factory, much to the disgust of Call, whose victims were all male, and he turned on Henley, threatening to kill him. After convincing Call to free him, Henley, enraged by Call's plan to kill his friends, grabbed his .22 revolver and shot Call, killing him and ending the spree. Henley was brought to trial in San Antonio on the 1st of July 1974 and charged with 6 murders, later being found guilty on every count, with his sentence totaling 594 years. He was initially held at the Huntsville unit before being transferred to the Mark Stiles unit in Jefferson County, Texas, where he is currently held. Number 3. Edward Harold Bell. Gaining notoriety for his crimes in the 1970s, Bell was convicted of 1 murder but claimed responsibility for several others, particularly targeting young girls and women. One of the most notable cases linked to Bell is the disappearance of 2 young girls, Rhonda Johnson and Sharon Shaw, who went missing in 1971. Their bodies were never found, but Bell was suspected of their murders. However, due to lack of evidence, he was not charged at the time. In 1978, Bell was convicted of the murder of 27-year-old Larry Dickens, who was shot. However, Bell claimed it was in self-defense. He stated that Dickens had attempted to rob him, but he was later convicted and sentenced to 70 years in prison. Following his conviction, Bell began to confess to several other murders, including ones he had not been charged with. He wrote letters to law enforcement and media outlets detailing his crimes and claiming responsibility for the deaths of several young girls and women. In 2016, Bell was indicted for the murder of Sharon Shaw based on new evidence and witness testimony. However, in 2017, he died in prison. Number 2. The Sunday Morning Slasher. The Sunday Morning Slasher was a notorious serial killer who operated in Chicago during the early 1980s. His real name was David Moust, who was born on April 5, 1954 in South Bend, Indiana, and he had a troubled upbringing marked by both abuse and neglect. Moust's killing spree began in 1981 when he murdered a 15-year-old boy named Michael Dennis, who he lured to his apartment. Over the next few years, Moust continued to commit heinous acts of violence and mainly targeted young men, often those who were homeless or vulnerable. Luring them with promises of shelter or money before murdering them, he earned the nickname the Sunday Morning Slasher, mainly because of his many victims were killed on Sunday mornings. Moust's killing spree came to an end in 1982 when he was arrested in connection with a separate sexual assault case. While in custody, he confessed to the murders of at least 5 young men, including Michael Dennis, and led police to the locations where he had disposed of the bodies. In 1983, Moust was convicted of the murders and sentenced to prison. However, due to a legal technicality, his conviction was overturned and he was released in 1999. After his release, Moust moved to Hammond, Indiana, where he lived quietly quietly for several years. In 2003, Mouse was arrested again after the bodies of 3 young men were found buried in the backyard of his Hammond home. He was charged with their murders, and in 2004 he pleaded guilty to killing these men and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Mouse died in prison on January 20th, 2006 at the age of 51, but remains one of the most infamous serial killers in the history of Chicago. Number 1. The Railroad Killer. The Chicago Railroad Killer, also known as Angel Maturino Resendez, was a Mexican drifter and serial killer who terrorized the United States during the mid-1990s. Resendez's modus operandi involved traveling by freight train across the United States and Canada, often using the railway system to move between cities. Between 1996 and 1999, he committed a series of murders along railway lines, targeting both men and women. His victims were found near railway tracks or in nearby areas, and Resendez's crimes were particularly brutal. His erratic pattern of killings, coupled with his transient lifestyle, made it difficult for law enforcement to track him down. Resendez gained notoriety for his ability to evade capture for an extended period, and despite being featured on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list, he managed to evade authorities by constantly moving and using different aliases. The Chicago Railroad Killer's reign of terror came to an end in 1999 when he was apprehended in Texas after a lengthy manhunt. He was captured after a relative recognized him from a subsequent wanted poster and alerted authorities, with him subsequently charged with murder on multiple counts. During his trial, Resendez confessed to numerous killings, claiming that he was following instructions from an angel named Lucifer, who commanded him to cleanse the world of sinners. He was found guilty of multiple counts of murder and was sentenced to death, which sparked significant debate over whether mental illness and the death penalty go together. Despite appeals and pleas for clemency, he was executed by lethal injection on the 27th of June 2006 at the Huntsville unit in Huntsville, Texas. The Chicago Railroad Killer's reign of terror remains one of the most infamous acts of murder in the Houston area. Thanks for watching the top 10 most dangerous criminals in Houston, Texas. Comment below if you think I missed anyone, or if you have an opinion on the content. Hit the like button to help us trend in the algorithm, and subscribe for weekly videos coming this month.